It's a recession when your neighbor loses his job. It's a depression when you lose your own. Where are we now as a country? Depression or recession? Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is exporters in trouble, yes or no? Joining us this evening on the show are Felix Fernando, Deputy Chairman, Joint Apparel Association; Shiha Marika, Secretary General, CEO of National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka; Sean Vandot, Chairman, Sri Lanka Shippers Council; as well as Pushpika Janadira, Chairman, Lanka Association of Manufacturers and Exporters of Rubber Products. To pose questions from our journalists from our panelists this evening, onto my immediate right is Niresh Eliathambi, Consultant Director at Newsfirst, as well as onto my immediate left is Shia Raniz, Executive Director of the Centre for Investigative Reporting. You too can join in as far as the conversation is concerned. The number to send in your messages is 076 656 5353. The number once again, 076 656 5353. I would be delighted to take up the questions to our panelists this evening. So let's get the ball rolling today with Felix Fernando, Deputy Chairman, Joint Apparel Association. Now, Felix, last year was a tough year for the apparel industry, not only in Sri Lanka, but across the world. How is it thus far now?
Yeah, you're right. Last year, I think we lost about 1 billion, and the apparel exports from Sri Lanka came down by about 20, almost close to 20%. But it's like what you said, it's not only in Sri Lanka. Perhaps apart from Bangladesh, I think all the other countries, exporting countries, their exports were lesser, mainly due to US and Europe. The recession as well as economic condition there. This year, also first 3 months, we haven't seen a very good result. But what we hear now is, I think most of the companies, we are getting back few orders. So it looks like that from May, June onwards, we are going to get back to normal, but it's too early to say how good we will be ending this year. But right now, we have seen, if you look at our numbers until March, we are more or less same like what we have done last year. But what we have done last year is 20% less than the 2022. So we should not be using 2023 as a benchmark for comparison purposes. But if we are using 2022, which means we are still low about 20%. The good thing is, January we have seen this year still lesser than even last year. But now slowly we are picking up. And when we talk with our member companies as well, more or less I think they are getting busy. And I think even the small scale subcontractors, they are getting busy. I don't know this moment will go up until when. It's difficult to say because we know the markets are still not ready. Still the economies have not come back to normal. But probably maybe they are completely down with their stocks, which they have utilized until last year. So probably maybe they may want to build up a few stocks because still war is going on. European countries still haven't recovered, but US have a little turnaround, not enough. So this is where we stand.
But Felix, just to get an understanding with regard to government policy at the end of the day, has the government policy, which has been quite inconsistent over the last few years, has that in any way contributed to the downfall of the industry in Sri Lanka as a whole, as far as exports for the apparel sector is concerned?
Yes, usually government, most of the government or the politicians, when they come, they say, yes, we want to have an export-led economy. Okay? Exports should dominate, but really we need to find out what kind of help, assistance or incentivize, how have they incentivized to grow the apparel industry, not apparel, export industry. I'm not talking only about apparel, exports. See, sometime back, they have increased the corporate tax. Even the companies, even the foreign investors who have invested in Sri Lanka, because they were told that they'll be given a lower tax rate. So 15% became 30%. and we have stopped giving what you call tax holidays. Let's see, tax holidays you don't need because most of the countries now they are getting away from the tax holidays. We understand the IMF, they made certain conditions, they gave certain conditions in order for us to negotiate the debt structuring. But having said that one, certain policies, but they are the governments, various governments, not only the present government, but if you look at, I don't think that they were exporter friendly, right? So how many times, maybe the BOI, for example, we can start from BOI. BOI started as a investor friendly, one-stop shop. Okay, so you have to get the only approvals everywhere BOI is supposed to be getting. But afterwards, I can understand maybe only the tax concessions to be away from BOI. Maybe that's okay, accepted. But then, if you look at some investor comes, how long he has to take? Because I'm talking from my experience. When we set up even 10 years back a factory in Vaunia, by the invitation of the then government, how many troubles we had to face to get the forestry department, then some other departments. So take the land. It was tough. In fact, we were able to finalize our land lease after just about 2 years back. That was after 8 years. Fortunately, I was fortunate enough to keep the patience of the foreign investor. Why should okay, if we have to increase the exports, if we have to grow the exports, we need to either the current investors need to expand, or else we need to get some new investors. Without that, we aren't able to grow the exports.
So very quickly, Felix, just to understand, you said that politicians must keep in mind that exports need to dominate a country's economy. My question is that right now there is debate whether or not it's going to be Sajid Premadas, Anil Kumar Dissanayake, Ranil Wickremesinghe or someone from the SLPP. Are you satisfied with any of the manifestos or at least the talk that they have delivered with regard to exporters' interest at this point of time?
Right now, at the moment, what we are looking at is, we haven't really got details what they are going to be doing if they come to the power. But what we are planning to do is, there are chambers, there is a lot of chambers including JAF. What we are trying to do is, we want to go meet them and ask, what are you going to be doing if you come to the power to promote export industry? Even are they going to consider apparel industry is important or sunset industry? We need to know these things beforehand. And also, we hope that a lot of people can talk, but once they come to the power, what you have seen is, everything what they promise is not given.
Right. Thank you very much, Felix Fernando, Deputy Chairman of the Joint Apparel Association. I now move my attention towards Shiham Marika, Secretary General and CEO of National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka. Shiham, interesting thoughts by Felix. He says that chambers have a big role to play in order to push the exporters' agenda forward. How do you view the role of national chambers in Sri Lanka? You also represent a chamber, and one of the allegations leveled by majority of the exporters, may it be the private sector or may it be the exporters per se, the biggest allegation is that chambers are not doing enough. They are not canvassing enough for the agenda of the exporters or the private sector forward. And why is that?
Yeah, first of all, let me thank you, Shamir, for getting us on board. As you said, I represent the National Chamber of Exporters, and I think this is a good platform for us to discuss the concerns. Now, your event today, you're calling it export industry in trouble. I would say the export industry stagnated for the past 10 years. And of course, a couple of years ago, we were in deep trouble. But now we are seeing some hope. Things are moving. Exports are happening. I'm sure you would have seen some of the months we are seeing increase in exports. But if you look at it overall, yes, for the past 10 years, the export industry has been stagnated. We are within the 10, 11, 12 billion mark, which is nothing compared to our neighbors. They have overtaken us long time ago. And there are many reasons for this happening. To answer your question about chambers, we of course as the National Chamber of Exporters all our members are exporting a product or service. We meet them every month, do our council meetings. We discuss the issues that they are facing, take up those issues and lobby on their behalf. But Shamir, the response that we get during these meetings with various departments or board agencies, during the meeting, of course, it is very positive, but we don't see anything moving that fast. It takes ages, reminders and reminders. And this has brought in a lot of frustration among the exporters. But as Export Chamber, we are doing our best. We don't have any vested agendas. Our main objective is to support the Sri Lankan exporters and deal with relevant agencies, lobbying on their behalf. But the results that we are getting in turn is very slow.
Shyam, if you look at the exporters industry per se, you know that in 2019, when the April 21st attacks took place, in terms of foreign remittances, in terms of foreign tourism revenue, it was all low. Only export earnings were high. In terms of 2021-22 COVID, we saw only the tea industry in Sri Lanka was doing well because all the other industries were slowing down. But the government goes ahead and increases the tax revenue from 15% to 30%. What's the logic? Are you trying to kill the exporters who are trying to bring in money to the country? What are they trying to do?
No, I agree with you, Shamir. Even my colleague, what he was saying. See, Sri Lanka now, we are talking so much, saying that Sri Lanka should be an export-driven economy. This is highlighted right from the top. But when you look at the policies that they have introduced, including the tax, there is no policy that supports the industry. It makes things more and more difficult for them. Now, I can talk about industry by industry, sector by sector, the issues that they are facing due to these policies, sudden changes of policy. And when we are trying to promote exports as a country, especially now where we need the foreign currency, I think the policies should align with the exporters. I mean, exporters are not asking for any incentives, they are not asking for cashback rewards, nothing like that. They want strong, steady, long-term policies. This we don't see being introduced by the government. There are a lot of areas needs to be improved. There are consultations between the government agencies and the private sectors, but in most of the cases, I don't think they are listening to us. Now, we can communicate with them, we can update them with ground level situations because we meet our members regularly. We know what they are going through on a day-to-day basis. The exporters today, they are firefighting. They are being sent from this place to that place, pillar to post, just to get a simple approval. So there are a lot of areas that needs to be streamlined and policies to be introduced to support the exporters, and they will perform. Just like you said, we can go even further. Before the COVID, we had a 35-year-old war. We had the tsunami, then the Easter bombing, the COVID. The exporters, somehow they were resilient. They were bringing in the foreign currency. And now, what is the support given to them? I'm not saying nothing is given, but we can still make changes to certain policies and empower the exporters, and they can reach up to 20-30 billion.
So you mean to say, Shyam, our topic today saying exporters in trouble is true?
Yes, exporters are in trouble, but compared to a couple of years ago where they were in very big trouble, and now they have come out of it. We see some light end of the tunnel.
So you say, Shyam, very quickly before I move to Sean, you said that exporters are firefighting at this point of time.
Yes.
And then you went on to say that board agencies and departments are making things difficult.
Yes.
Are you pointing the finger at the government?
Well, see, it's not, it's the government, and the government, the politics that is into this, the department heads, the changes happening in these departments, we have to go and sort of give them tuition classes on how things are done, these kind of issues.
How absurd is that?
It is absurd. I mean, there are a lot of issues where the exporters are facing. I mean, we really feel sorry when we talk to our member exporters. I mean, the level of frustration has come to a very, very high level. I mean, we hear SMEs closing shop. We hear exporters moving to other countries. Now, we don't want that to happen.
Thank you very much, Shyam Marga, Secretary General, CEO, National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka. We, of course, will talk to you more, Shyam, as the show progresses with regard to the problems plaguing the industry as a whole. I now move my attention towards Sean Van Dort, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Shippers Council. Sean, it has been a very, very difficult year for exporters in terms of shipping, not only in certain parts of the world, but more seriously across the border. We saw the issue with regard to the Suez Canal taking place last year. It was a very difficult time for exporters at that time, why the prices were skyrocketing in terms of shipping. Then last year we saw end of the year a conflict brewing between Ukraine and Russia. That pushed the prices. Then we saw the Red Sea issue that is now taking place center stage, and now we're talking about an imminent war with Iran and Israel as well. So it's tough times for exporters. It's nice to see the numbers and say the numbers have done well, but if you look at a P&L of an exporter, you can see them really bleeding because of the shipping costs going up drastically. Why isn't it the government stepping up and trying to help the exporters who are really being affected by all these problems, which is not their problem?
Well, it's this. The government cannot help in geopolitical issues like shipping, wars and common natural disasters, etc. However, the problem lies within. The problem of the exporter, the import and the export lies within. Our biggest bottleneck is the customs, ordinance and the border protection agencies. Their draconian laws are costing us more on a daily basis than the freight rates going up. Freight rates go down, come down is a market forces. But what can we control? We should be able to control our domestic expenditure on imports and exports. And the Sri Lanka Shippers Council consists of 17 product associations, 2,800 enterprises are members of that, and we have been pushing successive governments to go for digitalization, because digitalization will be the only way forward to eradicate corruption in the import-export sector. The corruption starts from border protection agencies to private individuals as well in the trading community. For the sake of speed, people are willing to throw money into the hands of government officials just to get approvals done, because they know if it's a consumable product, they can charge from the consumer, add it to the price and sell it. But the biggest problem in shipping for industrial manufacturing is when you are importing components from abroad and then exporting it back. The time taken just for a single approval is costing us a huge load of money. If you import a raw material and it's taken 3 to 5 days to get cleared from the port, our buyers are not going to wait for those 5 days. We have to air freight the finished product. That is directly and indirectly affecting our profitability of our country, and as a sourcing destination, we are seen wanting in that. And we have been propagating a digitalized import-export forum, a mechanism to eradicate corruption. So that is the biggest problem that we face as shippers of this country.
Yeah, so Sean, you spoke about the digitalization of the Custex and ensuring that there is a streamlined process when it comes to import and exports. What's the bottleneck?
The bottleneck, the way I see it, is the draconian laws of the customs and the lack of political will to get them accountable, the customs and the border protection agencies accountable to ensure that there's a digital platform operating in this country. Now customs might come and say, or the other border protection agencies say, no, we are digital. It is semi-digital. If you submit manifest to the customs, you have to also submit it manually. When it comes to, there are two regimes, the customs regime and the BOI regime, when it comes to imports and exports. The BOI was supposed to handle all the duty-free imports of industrial manufacturing in this country. What happens now? The customs go and create a BUI monitoring directorate. All the documents pass through their platform, is scrutinized, and we have to go physically with those documents back again to get a signature to clear the goods. That is, it's unheard of. This is ridiculous. It's
So
costing
how
us
much
money.
of money must an importer or an exporter spend in terms of getting a speedy service from the customs?
It depends on how much the company wants to pay and how much they value that particular product. It can vary from a minimum oiling of the palms can cost you 500 rupees to even 200,000 rupees, depending on if it's a duty paid product to get it sorted out. Now, the good, the bad and the ugly is there, but majority is the bad and the ugly. That's what we have seen.
So the issue is, Sean, let's take an import for an example. If you charge 250,000 rupees to get something done, this is ultimately going to add up to the final cost that is going to be handed down to the consumer, and thereby the consumers will find it difficult to purchase that product. And as a result of that, the company that has imported these products will have interest components being paid to the banks, and as a result, they might even close down.
Could be, but I've never seen consumer products being closing down. The essential food commodities, all of them go through a huge hassle just to get their approvals done. And the amount of delays, the detentions for inspection at customs, at border protection agencies, ports, the delays in destuffing cargo, it cannot be quantifiable.
Very quickly, Sean,
Yeah.
is there cherry picking by the customs? So when you're a large scale importer, they might look at you in a very positive way, or they might speed up your process. When you're a small timer or someone who's doing it for the first time, he's been penalized and he has to pay ultimately a bigger price. Does that happen? Is there any bias?
Yes and no. It depends on who you know, who's your company, who's the owners of the company, what are the connections they have, be it political, be it private connections, be it within the legal framework of border protection agencies.
So in other words, you're saying that it all depends on the customs officer who wakes up in the morning, whether it's from the right side of the bed or the left side of the bed.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Sean Van Dort, Chairman, Sri Lanka Shippers Council. And now move my attention towards Pushpika Janadera, Chairman, Lanka Association of Manufacturers and Exporters of Rubber Products. Pushpika, any hope? Because we see last year the exporters of rubber products stood at approximately around 970 billion. Now you all are forecasting approximately $1 billion US this year. So there seems to be somewhat of an improvement compared to last year. But again, I go back to the question that Felix pointed out. It's not the best year to compare with. So I want to get the figures from you with regard to 2022 and make a comparison with 2022 to 2024.
Yeah, Shamir, if you look at the latest numbers, we have seen around 7.45% of the growth in the world market of the rubber products demand. Sri Lanka last 3 months we have seen it's around 7.5% growth. Especially gloves has gone up by 12% and the tire has gone up by 7%. I mean year to year if you compare the last year to this year March. But these numbers we can't take the decision or we can't take an idea about just looking at a month. Because if you look at a time frame of like 10 years, we have not grown much. We were like 800, 900 around 10 years back. But if you look at today's situation, we are almost trying to reach 1 billion. Though it is not a so impressive number, we can happy about the growth of the rubber industry. But if you look at the potential is huge. The world potential is huge because the demand is creating. We have seen the reason Americans and even Europe demand is picking up. And even due to geopolitical changes and the concerns, there's a big demand creating and shopping in this part of the world. Therefore, the customers are asking products, they wanted to come here and invest, but it's very unfortunate. We have seen we are not ready to grab the opportunities. That's the biggest concern. Because in that context, I don't think we can grow this business at a large, we don't have much of expectation to grow in a couple of times. We have handed over rubber master plan in 2016 to how to reach the rubber related export revenue to 3 billion. But we have not seen any progress on that. Because there are multiple reasons, as Felix explained about the government policies and the taxation. And more than anything else, there is a big mismatch about the rubber requirement in this country and what is raw rubber production in the country. Because the raw rubber production, if you take a couple of years, it's coming down year on year. But our requirement is like 150,000 metric ton per year. But now we are available only 70,000. In that kind of a huge shortage, the growing in this industry is a big challenge, because the rest of the factors like other processing cost, energy, labor, all are not much of favorable in this context. Therefore, the month on month is just a slight improvement are there. Last 3 years, COVID actually gave us a good kickoff. We were trying to maintain that, but it's more than maintaining. Growth is quite challenging in this particular context.
So, Pushpika, you may be quite well aware that when it comes to the tea industry, exporters contribute to a certain levy which goes to the fund of the Sri Lanka Tea Board, and as a result of that, the Sri Lanka Tea Board sponsors various events. How and why and how that money was spent over the last few years is a big question mark.
Yeah.
Because we know that approximately 250 million rupees was spent on a campaign that was not even launched, just to do the groundwork to agencies in Sri Lanka. So I'm not going to talk about that. But my question is, does the rubber industry in Sri Lanka have any such fund where the exporters contribute, and as a result of that, you all can fuel or do a global campaign?
Yeah, actually,
rubber.
When we buy raw rubber and when we import raw rubber to the country, we pay 4 rupees cess, because I think that cess pass into the rubber related ministries, but recently I got to know that it's passed into the treasury. But it is a big question where this money goes actually, because there are quite important events to be done. The one important thing is the EUDR, the recently imposed by the European Union. We have to comply before January 1st. European Union deforestation regulation. Every rubber product exporters has to comply with that. That need money, because if I further elaborate on that, that compliance, every exporter has to ensure that we buy rubber from the state which are not connected to the deforestation or forest degradation. Therefore, we have to collect information from all the farmers, their location, geolocation of the property, and their ownership of the property, and their whether they are comply with the local laws, and whether they are engaging in the proper laws, like example, no child labor, etc. Collecting those information, we have to do map out. Basically, we have to digitalize the whole system of rubber procurement system. That system, nobody funded. Even nobody talk about the world, because we are in a big crisis.
So who's funding it?
Actually, even the private companies now already started. Some of the companies started their digitalization, their data collection, they are
doing it independently.
Independent. But actually,
you think it's a role of the government to do it?
I think it's more than the money. At least government should educate the people, educate the rubber farmers, because there are 110,000 farmers in the country, and there are traders. We have to educate them, and we have to ensure that everybody comply with this law.
So Pushpika, I remember when I was a kid, when I used to go to upcountry or down south, when you go through roads, you can see rubber plantations everywhere. On your right you have a rubber plantation, on your left you have a rubber plantation, and you go through this cozy little road, and you can flaunt about Sri Lanka's beauty. But when I go on those roads now, what I see is cinnamon cultivation. People have switched somewhat their crops as well. So is the government doing enough in terms of educating the public, or is the government doing enough in terms of educating the rubber producer?
No, I think it's more than the government. It's dependent on the economic condition. If the farmer feels that cinnamon is more profitable, obviously they shift it to cinnamon.
So you're saying cinnamon is more profitable?
No, I am not telling. Now, as you said, if the people
so let's look at the numbers a little bit. So how much is a kilo of rubber?
Now rubber is rise up around, latex is around 780 rupees right now.
So do you know how much is cinnamon? it's around 3,500 rupees. So, are you going to grow cinnamon or are you going to grow
No,
rubber?
it's depend. It's depend. You know, you have to look at the crop.
appraise
Yeah,
us.
I can enlighten you that. Now, if you look at the rubber, Sri Lanka rubber production is 0.03% of the world production. Therefore, we are basically not a rubber manufacturing country anymore. We are a net importer. We import 70,000 metric ton to the country. Who are the large manufacturers? Thailand, 30% of the world manufacturing. And Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, they are leading. Then why they are not going for this crop? Because they get a better earning from rubber. You know that the earning equal quantity multiplied by the price. Rubber price is a world price. Nobody can change. Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Taiwan, everywhere the same price. But how they make money, that purely based on the yield. Their yield is almost 3 times of the yield in Sri Lanka. Therefore, we have not done enough things to increase the yield.
Thank you very much, Pushpika Janadira, Chairman at Lanka Association of Manufacturers and Exporters of Rubber Products. I don't know about Niresh and Shihar, but when I used to go to school, when we speak about Sri Lanka's exports to the world, we flaunt about tea, rubber and coconut.
Yeah.
Look at our dear country now. What are we even talking? Tea is almost plunging. Rubber situation, as Pushpika said, is very bad. Coconut is nowhere in the map, unfortunately. And this is what respective governments have done and put us through over the last few decades. Very, very sad. But we are here to discuss about all this some more. So on to my immediate right, as I said before, is Niresh. On to my immediate left is Shihar. Shihar, with your permission, shall we switch to Niresh today?
Sure.
As he's the right-hand man. Yes, Niresh.
Thank you, Shamir. Now, Shiham, you said something quite staggering. You said that for the last 10 years, exports have stagnated. So 10 years, I was just calculating, we have had 4 separate governments. And the fact that none of them have sought fit to focus on exports is absolutely criminal. Because in the end, the country's economic crisis was a forex crisis, and here we have the exports stagnating, which clearly contributed to the downfall of the country's economy. Now, as a chamber, why didn't any of these governments listen to what the chambers say? I mean, I'm trying to understand why the chambers don't have very much influence over successive governments. Why aren't they listening?
Yeah, you're right, Niresh. If you look at the past, not 10, even going beyond that, successive governments, they have not really done anything to support the exporters fraternity. Exporters have been fighting their battles by themselves. They are incurring all the brunt, they are going through all the difficulties, and like you said, individually when they go and complain, nobody will listen to them. But at least through chambers like us, we have a little bit strength, and especially like if you take the 4 of our chambers, we get together in a lot of things. We even had a press conference recently where about 7 or 8 chambers were together. Together we tried to create a buzz highlighting the issues faced by the Sri Lankan exporters. But sadly, they are not listening to us and taking action on these things. We are also really upset now when the country knows how important it is to bring in that foreign currency, especially at a time like this where we need the US dollars. Still we don't see policies aligning to support the Sri Lankan exporter. They are fighting their battle by themselves, and the level of frustration has really come up very high.
But is it a gap in knowledge of political leaders, or is it the bureaucrats? Why? I'm still trying to fathom why the chambers don't have that kind of clout, which in other countries they do have that clout. They can go and meet ministers, prime ministers, presidents, bureaucrats who will actually listen. But in this country, it seems that the chambers simply don't have that kind of clout.
No, you are right. I think if you look at even the chambers, in the past, chambers were always trying to work in silos. You know, they were like with their own agendas and things like that. But now you see things changing. Chambers are getting together. We are holding hands together. The private sector is very strong, and we are going head on. We are speaking to people. Still, the results that we are getting are not satisfactory.
But Shyam, I beg to differ. You say the chambers have got together and are voicing your concerns collectively. But you all had a press conference recently with these gentlemen as well. Where was the National Chamber?
Yeah. Now see,
They're scared.
No.
They don't want to talk.
No. When you actually look at the press conference that we had, the 7 chambers and associations who got together there all represent the exporters or the indirect exporters, service price exporters.
But you know, Shiham, all the exporters in Sri Lanka are members of the National Chamber.
Yes.
Because if they are not members of the National Chamber, they can't get the trade certificate from the National Chamber, which is a prerequisite for certain markets. What is the Chamber doing? Tell me. Shyam, you don't have to paint a rosy picture, but what is the National Chamber doing?
No, well,
What
see,
have they done?
When
you increase the taxes from 15% to 30%, where was any of these chambers? Did they voice their concerns, saying the taxation is high?
I mean, I cannot speak on behalf of.
No, you don't have to talk about. But tell me, isn't that a shame?
No, it's a shame. I mean, you're right, Shamir. There are a lot of things we could have done, and all of us have to collectively take the blame. I mean, we cannot point the finger at each other. All of us are in this together, and I think now is the time. I mean, even now, I see sometimes, certain associations, chambers, they are, towing their boat different in different areas, whereas we should get together.
See, Shyam, maybe to be very honest, Shyam, I blame the chamber not only on this point about exporters. I blame the chamber even when Sri Lanka was going through a bankruptcy, because the entire country cannot be held responsible for something like that. But the chambers are the ones who are keeping their ears and eyes to the ground. They work with the banks, they know what is going to come in, and they didn't do anything relating to Sri Lanka's bankruptcy. They spoke only in 2021, January, when they had to pay $500 million for ISB holders. Until then, not a word, Shyam, not a word. Is this the kind of chambers we need as a country? Don't the chambers have a bigger role or bigger power to play with regard to at least now protecting the exporters?
No, I think to be fair if you look at the chambers also have done their part. They have raised voices whenever it's needed. I mean, we have worked with even the Ceylon Chamber, the National Chamber. We have done joint press articles. We have gone and met even the President, the Prime Minister jointly. We do engage in these kinds of things, so we have to be fair.
So the government is not listening?
No, like I said earlier, in most cases, when we go with our issues, they listen, but the results or the response coming from them has been very slow.
Is it because they don't understand things, or they don't want to do that?
There is no proper leadership, we feel, in certain areas.
Ranil Wickremesinghe?
No.
When you say leadership?
I'm not talking about the country leader. I'm talking about certain departments. Certain departments, we don't see proper leadership. There is no one forcing things down, even though we go and cry to him. I can give you examples of specific departments, but in general, we see a lot of areas to be developed.
So then there's no real government focus on exports.
There was. When His Excellency was the Prime Minister, we embarked on a huge program through the International Trade Council, ITC, called the National Export Strategy. It was a 5-year program. We invested loads of manpower into that, and we came up with a beautiful strategy. Unfortunately, as we have experienced in the past, government changes, ministers change, they do not know jack of what has been taking place before, because it is not on their agenda. They have different agendas. The National Export Strategy, if it was implemented, we would have enhanced our export basket. Also, there's a serious lack of entrepreneurship in this country. We have the herd mentality. You can only expect the government to help exports. Tell us the new commodities that our Sri Lankans have brought into the industries for exports. No entrepreneurship. That is also curtailed. If there is even a little bit of entrepreneurship, there is curtailed because there are no consistent policies. Right?
So Sean, you must be quite well aware, because you are representing the private sector, you are well aware. Entrepreneurship is built in a country when there is, as you said, consistent policy, and there has to be vision, because an entrepreneur is built when the interest rates are down. Today, if the interest rates are 28%, and if it's tomorrow going to be 6% or 7%, that's not going to help.
Absolutely.
It's not going to help in any way. So that is what's happening in Sri Lanka. There was at one point, the interest rates in Sri Lanka was 28%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where is entrepreneurship? Is anyone going to borrow at 28%?
No way.
So then
But
what?
this happened pre-COVID. There was entrepreneurship. There were new products coming in. We had identified boat building, essence, wellness tourism, just not tourism, wellness tourism, and people were gradually gearing up for it. But it is the people who already are in that business who are trying to do the same thing in their own infrastructure. There is no new developments. Look at tourism, for example. Can a tourist go to a decent toilet in Sigiriya? Isn't that a position for entrepreneurship, to open up maybe a private toilets, fully clean toilets, maintained with a small charge? I'm just giving you a small example, right? So where did all that industries that were chosen, apparel and tea, were considered mature? All the others just went down the drain. And the effort that we put in, I must be honest with you, all of us, spent over 1 year attending 8-hour shifts for this national export
But
strategy.
you were speaking about Sean. You spoke about tea.
Yeah.
Now look at the pity state of the tea industry in Sri Lanka. At a time when we could have easily liberalized the tea industry in Sri Lanka and retained our teas in the country and sold it with blending as Ceylon tea overseas, all the top companies in Sri Lanka are setting up shop today overseas.
Absolutely.
Look at the top 10 companies in the country and see how many companies have gone overseas to set up shop.
It's a crime.
It's a crime.
Absolute
and
crime.
there are big companies globally. I can tell you an example. Ahmed Tea, for an example. They were working in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Now they have gone
And
to
Ras Al
Dubai
Khaimah, yeah.
and Ras Al Khaimah, and they have set up shop. What are we losing? We are sending now the raw material.
Yes.
It's sad.
Dubai being a desert or a desert country,
Exporting
they export
tea.
more tea than Sri Lanka.
Also, Shamir, you were talking about the interest rates. Even though the interest rates have come down now, our lending is based on collateral. So the SMEs or the startup company, now we have a program called the Aspiring Exporters. A lot of startups from the regions, we work with them, we support them. But when they get an order, they cannot go and borrow because they don't have assets to provide as collateral. So where are the schemes to support them? See, we today see the same exporters wherever we go. We don't see new people coming in. Similarly, there are no new products coming in. So we need to have a program to uplift all these areas. That's why the national export strategy, like Sean mentioned, where all chambers got together. We worked with the International Trade Center Geneva. That time it was headed by the Export Development Board. We had a very lovely, aggressive export strategy in place. We identified 6 sectors. And we had this policy. We put in a lot of time and energy. The file is now buried. When the government changed, it was taken off.
Felix, I want to ask now, you spoke about reduction in the exports, government exports last year and this year also. You're not quite sure, but the orders are picking. Now there were reports of companies, top companies, moving from Sri Lanka to Bangladesh and some other countries. What's the update on that?
See, I think somebody explained earlier also, everyone, here's example of rubber versus cement. Okay? It's maybe entrepreneur, they want to have the end of the day, they could have invested money in the bank and get the interest rate. They want to get the profitability and maybe sustain. So there were times that, especially there were times that when the government policies are not proper, especially during the when we had the economic recession or irregular time, how many of our skilled and unskilled labor as well as professionals left the country? We also were worried, and maybe basically maybe most of our customers were scared to place the orders in Sri Lanka. There were uncertainties whether we are able to ship, whether there's a strike tomorrow. All sort of things are considered. But right now, maybe most of them, they have gone out, whatever, they are coming back. The orders are coming back because they also have identified the country risk. It's not only Sri Lanka, more or less every country in the world, they have some sort of risk. So Bangladesh has their own sort of risk. So it's not only for the profit. But you need to make sure that if you lose a customer, it's difficult to get back. If you miss a delivery, so they might completely, go to another manufacturer. So I will not find any fault because if I can't deliver on time from Sri Lanka, I'll make sure that I'll get it done for the longer term. For the long term, it's a benefit for the country.
Felix, now if you look at it, when Ranasinghe Premadasa introduced the free trade zones in the country for apparel sector, the apparel sector was much talked about in the world over, and Sri Lanka had a competitive advantage and an edge. But look at what Bangladesh has done in the last 20 years. Today, Sri Lankan companies are going to Bangladesh and setting up shop.
Yeah. Yes.
Almost the top companies, may it be MAS or may it be Hydramani's, Brandix, all of them are in Bangladesh today.
There were few. Let me put it this way: it's not only Bangladesh. Look at Vietnam. Look at Cambodia. I remember 10 years back we were trying to set up factory. Our parent company from Italy want to set up a company in Asia because they were thinking, because currently Sri Lanka supplies more than 70% of the goods to our brands. So maybe it's a country risk or whatever. So they were looking for, with the expansion, to find another place. So Cambodia that time, because they had several unions and they had only about 1 billion apparel exports about 12 years back. Now they do about 10 billion. And with all these unions and etc. Bangladesh also, now, if you look at now, I don't think anyone wants to go to Bangladesh right now. But yes, there was a time, and also unfortunately we had a problem with our labor because we are a smaller country, and that's what happened with the Vietnam. When the US-China trade relations went for a 6, most of the Chinese companies, they moved on to Vietnam. They were not able to come to Sri Lanka because our capacities were small. They had orders like maybe 5 million, 1 million, but we are not able to. For example, they want to give I think one of our bigger manufacturer told me that they got a jacket order 500 million jackets. Sorry, 500,000 jackets. They are unable to do. They can't hardly do even 50,000 jackets because we don't have that capacity. That's also that we are unable to help. But my issue is Sri Lanka has, maybe we can still, with the existing labor, we need to invest in new technology. But who is going to invest? When the country is uncertain, will the existing investors, will they spend some more money? Good example, let's say, this is not applicable only for the apparel. Look at the other industries. We are talking about the soft toy or the component, vehicle component, all sort of manufacturing. We want to work with some other bigger multinationals. But what will they get when they come to invest in Sri Lanka? Okay, there are some economists, they think, you can't give special treatment for exporters. They are also like the other industries, maybe the retailers, casino people, what you call traders, bankers, there shouldn't be any discrimination. Even IMF is on that, they are demanding that. But maybe end of the day that can be the status because yes, we agree also, but we are, as a country, we are not there. How do we get the investors? For example, let's say someone wants to come and invest a big money here, and let's say maybe as an experiment, he comes, he set up the industry, and he finds that doesn't work here for whatever the reasons. So what is the thing that he is able to, can he exit easily from Sri Lanka? With the current labor laws, it's very, very difficult for him to exit the country. So knowing that, who will come to invest?
No, you spoke about Bangladesh, Felix.
Yeah.
See, a few years ago, Bangladesh lended Sri Lanka 400 billion US dollars.
Correct.
You know, their export figure stands at 60.5 billion in 2024, their forecast.
Yes.
Sri Lankan exports,
5
where
billion.
are we?
5 billion. We were stagnating
Yeah,
around
so
5 billion.
if you look at it, I'll tell you the numbers in terms of the apparel sector. In 2022, you all did nearly 6 billion US
5.5.
dollars worth of business. In 2023, it came down to 4.76
Correct.
billion US dollars. So there has been a degrowth. So my question is, when are we going to be a $10 billion industry for the apparel sector? When are we going to ever be a $4 billion tea industry? When are we ever going to be a $2 billion rubber industry? When are we going to achieve all these targets?
Let me come this way, because Bangladesh, they have some competitive advantage, especially when they are still considered as a LDC, least developed country. As a result, for many countries, they are able to export goods without paying the necessary duties. In the sense, the importing country will not have to pay the import duties. Even with the EU GSP Plus, we have the GSP Plus facility, but we have some conditions. We need to buy the fabric from Sri Lanka or SAARC countries or European country. But for Bangladesh, they can get cheaper the fabric from China or Vietnam or Indonesia or whatever, that goes duty free. If you really look at the cost of production, Shamir, with the recent wage increase in Bangladesh, we are very competitive. In certain cases that we are cheaper than Bangladesh. Okay, maybe that's one of the reasons, maybe we are getting few more orders here. But the problem becomes, 8%, 10% on the finished garment. It's a big deal for the importer or the customer. So that is one thing. And then Vietnam, if you look at Vietnam, the same thing, they have grown, I don't know how many folds. They also have a lot of free trade agreements. So we are not in a level playing field. We are the only people that, we have how many FTAs we have, and also the FTAs, that policy of the governments, agreeing with the FTAs are maybe, I don't see a reason, why, okay, Singapore. But what do we import? What do we export? Okay, and the priority should be maybe the growing markets like China, India, and say Japan, Australia, some of these countries which we export a lot, or which we want to export a lot, and they are the people, they are the countries that will have a bigger development happening. But Sri Lanka, we are not focusing on getting the FTAs. Now, how many years we are talking about the China, India FTAs? The problem also is certain sectors in the government, they think we need to get out of this mentality of the para-tariffs. Because we cannot, because some of the domestic industries or local industries, what they think is they are like frogs in a well. They look at only Sri Lankan market. So it's not correct. They should also become exporters. People who are supplying the goods to the consumers in Sri Lanka, they can get the economies of scale, they can export. Why not they export? So they want governments to protect their industries by imposing certain para-tariffs or whatever. I think that will not work. So because I think China, most of the biggest blocks is because some of our local industries, they are protesting with the government. So don't do this one.
So Shiham, Felix spoke about wage increases. We cannot miss the fact that the government announced a 1,700 rupee wage hike for estate sector employees on the 1st of May. Seems like a political gimmick once again. But you said that chambers are together when fighting about problems that are plaguing the industry. But only the Plant Association has gone to courts. Where is the CTTA? The Colombo Tea Trade Association? Where is the TEA? The Tea Exporter Association? Because ultimately, if the price of wages are increased, it's not going to only impact the Plant Association. In turn, ultimately, it's going to affect the exporters.
No, you are right.
Where are these people? Now you're saying, Shiham, all of them are together, but I can't see that. You must be not daydreaming, but I don't know whether it's a dream or not. I just can't
With
figure it out.
regards to the wages increase, the sudden announcements by the government, you said correctly, maybe a political gimmick. Now, the National Chamber of Exporters, our stand is increasing the wages, we have no issues with that. That is, of course, going to improve the livelihood of the people. But it has to be based on productivity. And the government should not be interfering in wage increase for the private sector. I mean, they can have a minimum wage to control things. But the way this happened, it is going to have a negative impact on the industry. Of course, it starts with the tea industry, it can go to the rubber industry, all plantation. And as it is, they are working on very, very thin margins. By doing things like this, if the industry collapses, what will happen? They will lose their jobs. So I think that kind of far thinking is not there. They should have consulted the industry, discussed with them, looked at the figures, what are the issues they are facing, and then jointly find a mechanism to create a win-win for both parties. So if this decision was made based on political will or to gain votes, then it is wrong.
So have they done because of that?
You just now said it could be a political gimmick. It could be. But the way they did it, the mechanism, without discussing with the industry, without looking at productivity, without looking they should have studied the other costs incurred by the tea industry.
Yeah, so Shyam, before I give an opportunity to Shihar to pose a question, Shyam, now my question is now the exporters in March 2024, based on the central bank data, exports have surged by 19-month high to $1.14 billion in March alone. But what should be looked at is not this figure, is it? At the end of the day, it's how much of money the exporters are making. Now look at the exchange, what's happening, the depreciation of the US dollar. Exporters are not saying that they want to make an exchange gain, but at least keep it static. From 324, within an 8-week window, it came down to 292. So a company that is making or doing $4 million worth of business a month, if you multiply that 25 rupees by 4 million, that means they're starting off with a loss of $100 million every month.
Yeah, see,
and these export companies will close down if it goes on like this.
With regards to the rupee appreciating, end of the day, as a whole, the country may benefit. But we are still yet to see this effect at the supermarkets when we go. We don't see it. Now, what the exporters are saying is, the manner this, because there was a time where exporters were gaining very high returns also because of the rupee depreciated. But now, the way it happened, and what the exporters are saying is the central bank should introduce policies not to directly control the currency fluctuation. We want it to be market driven. But still there should be policies introduced to favor the exporter. Something like this happening, like you said, Shamil, yes, it's going to have a huge negative impact. So the central bank should come on board with tools to introduce policies that will stabilize this, what is happening, without having spikes. Then it's very difficult for exporter to plan. If these are happening gradually, yes.
It has been already doing that, right?
Yeah.
The central bank has been already doing that, because had they not bought dollars, rupee would have crashed to 280, isn't it?
Correct, but on top of that one, what we are asking from the central bank is, when the crisis came, the central bank introduced certain rules and regulations that, that within 30 days that they need to convert whatever the money left. But I think it's not applicable now. So we have been talking to the central bank, to take off this regulation now, because at least that's also going to help the dollar supply.
So even the central bank is not listening.
No, that regulation came because
even the central bank is not listening, no?
Yes.
It's not central bank is not listening. Sorry, I don't want to say that one, because see, the problem is, when central bank is not one person. There are several, because as a person that who goes in and out.
1% in 2015
but talk about that regulation. That regulation came.
Judgment.
No, that regulation came because of the claim that exporters were
parking money outside the country.
No, not that. Once the money remittances came, because of the shortage of foreign exchange,
right.
Conversion became mandatory.
But
there's no more requirement.
Since
And
you
other, sorry.
Go ahead.
Other thing about this question about this exchange rate. Now they have to understand that the the export process is not just a month or two. It's a 6-month process minimum. We have to procure the material, and we have to place the order, and we have to get the money back onto our accounts. Therefore, now today we are getting money what we sold 6 months back, and 6 months back we got the order. That time the dollar was like 326, 328, but now we are getting around 298 something. 30 rupee lost on the spot. And the other worst case is today we are getting orders at the today's rate around 300. But some leaders say the dollar going to push into 270. So another 6 months time, if it is getting 270, are we going to make another loss of 30 rupees?
And you're right, Pushpika, because now let's say we offer a client at 292 today, and then try to offer, and then when the dollar goes 270, no, if we forecast that price, no one is going to buy from us.
That's the thing.
That's right.
Because
No one is going to buy.
I think this fluctuation is too much, because exporters are not gambling. We don't want to increase such a rate like it went to 360. We don't want to say like a 260 with
No,
a
we don't
shorter
want
period
that.
of time.
No,
Yeah, that's what we are not playing a gambling. We want a reasonable rate where we can absorb, because the exporters are running with a very thin margin. Because especially our industry, we are competing with giants in Thailand, Indonesia, China, Malaysia. All these are big shots and the big volume makers. But this thin margin, if you hit by at least a 5% or 2-3% of the exchange, you are going to have a completely turn around the business. And we have seen a lot of middle scale people, industries are already closed down. And most of the exporters budgeted for this year 330, 340 level at the budget level.
Yes.
Now we are around 300 level.
Now the problem is, Pushpika, now there are economic pundits who at one point said the government is doing bad. Now they come, sometimes even on the show, Niresh, and say the government is doing well. Now,
No, it's a good and bad.
What you were mentioning about exporters parking their money outside, this was a very loose statement made by the officials. Because you can't carpet bomb all exporters. Maybe there are a few who are doing it. By mentioning that, the central bank came out and said that exporters are parking money.
Exactly.
No, sure.
So what they are saying is that they are not doing their job. Monitoring the export money coming in and out, this is the job of the central bank. So just because few people are doing that, they can't carpet bomb all.
Other thing
is with such thin margins, you think exporters are going to park money outside? They need the money here to pay the energy cost has increased, wages have increased, everything has increased.
No,
they need to bring the money back. Why should they keep it outside?
No, they are telling the amount parking. That means they know who are the people.
They should come out with the
Why
names.
they can't bring it to even I saw yesterday one of the minister was saying,
Rather than carpet bomb.
yeah, they have
Yeah,
power.
exactly.
They have to bring it and disclose who are the people.
Because
doing
by
it.
making such loose statements, they are demoralizing the exporters who are doing ethical trading.
Yes.
We have many exporters who are doing it. How do you think the apparel sector is winning the European market? Because they are ethical trading companies.
Yeah, I think we have gone to central bank. I think slowly we have changed their mentality, because now they are central bank governor is convinced that we are not to his.
Now he has changed his tone. Yes,
yes, he is basically
we have seen ample U-turns, Felix, over the years.
No, but I think this was more convincing, because we were not doing anything magic or gimmick or whatever, because we said. But we were discussing here, yes, if there is something, we have given the figures. Now also we help them to build some systems, saying that, okay, you can track the systems. That again, with the customs and the help of banks. But only thing is, the implementation takes long, That's the central bank's response to this, what you call, lifting this regulation on conversion, mandatory conversion, is that because they are still not convinced. They want to prove that people are taking all the money here. So that's why I think we can't do, like somebody earlier said, I think Sean said, it's not only the government leadership, sometimes the bureaucrats.
Yes.
They are responsible.
But this money in the account. Local account, but no need to convert, because money has already bought in dollars.
Correct.
But Felix, I know for a fact that when Sri Lanka was scraping the barrel for dollars, there were some of the exporters where the government spoke directly and asked them to pump in money to buy fuel, buy medicine, and most of the exporters did
Sean and I included. We have given that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so I'm telling you,
it,
so
it
you all
was very
didn't-
difficult for us to get back the money in dollars, and finally we had to accept certain money in rupees.
Rupees.
The conversion in that time is justifiable, but now forced conversion is not justifiable. That's what we are saying, because we have to keep, because money has come to the country. It's in local banks, in
So the
foreign
problem is,
exchange.
yeah, the other problem is, Shyam, when we export, I don't know, gentlemen, whether you have noticed, now with this situation, the more you export, the more losses you incur,
More you penalize.
more you are penalized. Is that fair?
No, it's not fair, Shamir. Our member exporters, they are actually begging from their buyers to sustain their business. So they say, okay, maybe things will change next month. It will change in about 2 months' time. So sometimes they are selling at below cost just to keep that customer. How difficult it is to get a customer. I mean, Sri Lankan exporters, when they have to go overseas to participate in trade shows and everything, they don't get any assistance. They spend millions. All these are done by them. So they want to keep those buyers somehow by even sometimes selling at loss, hoping that things will change.
Long term.
And we are also hoping for the
But
best.
now, Felix, you said something. You said slowly we are convincing the central bank. Slowly, hemming in Sinhala.
Hemming, yes.
But that's not good enough, is it?
No,
When
because
you need rapid action.
See, the problem is, okay, I hope that there are some good, knowledgeable people. I think they are educated people at central bank, but they lack the practical knowledge. I would say that maybe most of these government servants, they need to have policy. Maybe once they are recruited or even after some time, they need to be placed working in a private organization for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months or something to get an idea how they are doing. What we see is they don't have, most of them, I'm not talking about everyone, but bulk of them don't have an idea how the private sector works and what are the obstacles, how can they help them. So that's why I think, because we had, for some simple remittance thing, the systems they have put doesn't work, we have been called once, twice, thrice, to come help them to reconcile that, our invoices with but these are simple things, custom tax.
So,
Sorry,
I want to ask Sean, because Felix was talking about customs and all that. Sean, I come from an export background, and recently one of our shipments was put in for a panel through the Sri Lanka Tea Board, and then we had to meet a vessel on time. And then after it was cleared, the Tea Board wrote a letter to the customs to release the container. Now, this was on an LC term. And then that letter had not reached the customs on time. We missed the vessel. And we had to pay 1.2 million Sri Lankan rupees to pull out the container from the yard and lay it at our premises and wait for the next vessel for the 24th. Now, I don't think we are the only company that has been penalized like that. There have been probably many companies as well. So what is the way forward in a situation like that?
Well, I very, very strongly believe the only way we could come out of this controlling psychosis or the thinking of the customs, they love to control. Sri Lankans have this mentality of controlling everything. The customs, I don't believe, have a good post-audit system. For goodness sake, let the exports go without hassle. To do that, we have to digitalize.
Yeah.
No point blaming ABCD and attacking ABCD. The process has to be digitalized. We don't want to see, if you are a customs officer handling exports, I don't want to see you.
Your face.
I don't want to see your face. I don't want to come and see you. Approve my
Online.
shipments on the system. You have the risk factor embedded in your Asikuda world. Do post audit and see, for goodness sake, what you have done. How come the genuine people always get penalized, hammered, left, right, and center? But the unscrupulous trader, in connivance with a lot of these border protection agencies, they ship even contraband, and everything is hunky-dory. We get hammered, right? And then my members in the Shippers Council come and complain to us, for goodness sake, get this digitalized. Why are we asking for digitalization? We don't want to meet any border protection agency face to face. Because when we meet, it is a case of harassment, and then the famous money talks, cow dung walks.
Sean, it won't be something like the VFS, no?
I hope not. Looking at what is going around, I think it is another fiasco. But yes.
Yeah. Shyam, I want to ask now, you made two statements. One is exports, overall exports, export sector is stagnant for the last 10 years. And then you said the government is not listening to you all. So forget about everything. What are the key policies you need, key incentives or key conditions you need to improve the exports to for Sri Lanka to become an export-led country? Plus, what is the potential of Sri Lanka in exports?
See, all these things has been detailed in the national export strategy.
Yeah.
We don't need to reinvent this. It was done over a period of 2 or 3 years with about 400 members from the private sector covering all export sectors.
So this is with the government now?
It is now. It is already done. It was funded. It is done. It is ready to be implemented. But there is no pressure coming from the top.
The lack of understanding of the national export strategy also, because it had a lot of work to be done by secretaries, ministers and departments. They don't know jack about national export strategy. You ask them, they have not even read the document.
Yeah, but Sean, the problem is now what Shihar says, where is the will? Now when the government want to bring in the Online Safety Act, it was brought overnight.
Yeah.
When the government wants to bring a bill, it's brought overnight. Now the electricity bill that is in Parliament to be officiated by the Speaker in a few days from now was brought overnight. But the export strategy has been discussed and debated for a very long time.
Even you take a subject like the single window. Now he was talking about going digital. This is something what the exporters have been crying for so many years.
Simple thing.
Now in the last budget, they had approved I think around 100 million rupees or something to start this.
Single window.
And we had for 1 or 2 meetings we had the Ministry of Finance. After that, again, we don't see any interest or that
but this
kind
is, this is something you can see in the IMF governance diagnostic report, right? So, do you see anything improving now?
No, that's with regards to the single window. They restarted this whole thing with the budget, where there was some money, allocated for this. And we had the first 2-3 meetings. They appointed subcommittees. We see things taking a slow start again, but it's too slow. By that time, we will lose the bus. We will miss the bus.
So even corruption, Sean, isn't that a big problem? Because we saw Verity Research chairman, Nishan Dimel, highlighting where the money has been spent on food and clothing for military personnel by several folds. And at the end of the day, whatever tax money that is being collected is being pumped into to buy uniforms for the military, because it was an unsolicited tender.
Yeah, so corruption is deep rooted in society today.
My God.
I blame the private sector and the government sector for this.
Why the private sector?
Private sector is willing to pay. No?
Yeah.
In the name of speed, there are companies who have a lovely image in front, but they outsource that job that they have to meet the customs, because they don't want to show those figures on their books. So I pay an agency fee to a clearing and forwarding agent, the company. Right? This is what my members tell me, because I don't get involved. They pay the 1,000 rupees, they pay the 500 rupees to the respective officers. For every signature is a 500 to 1,000 to a officer, or to some government agency, or even to sometimes to the private agencies itself, just to expedite their work. So where is this going to stop? The stop would be in digitalization.
Yeah, now we look at India.
Look at the QR code. The Indian fruit seller is selling his mangoes through a QR code on the street. We enabled in 2006, we brought the Electronic Transaction Act. This act supersedes all ordinances, acts, etc. It was further strengthened in 2017, that's at number 25. Every time we went and put this at the customs doorstep and the BOI doorstep, digitalized, because this is accepted today. No, we had to get Attorney General's approval. And it was the delayed tactic. I have been through 3 single window launches. So I call it single window, double door. It goes faster than it comes. Right? And this is a pathetic situation for our country, and all of us suffer end of the day because corruption is deep rooted. 50% I will blame the private sector, 50% I will blame the government sector and the border control agencies.
So combined.
I firmly believe in this. As long as we are willing to pay everything,
Someone is there to receive it.
somebody will agree, and they will make it in such a way the laws and the ordinance is so strong, they can harass you.
Another example I can give you, you take the floriculture sector. There are about 30 exporters here. They do about 15 million, not a big deal. But when you speak to them, they'll tell you they can increase this by 3 or 5 times. But just to give a simple example, when they're exporting, floriculture export, when they're exporting, they have to get something called the forest permit. They have to go to the department, the forest department. They are requested to bring color printouts. Let's say they are sending 60 or 75 different varieties. Color printouts, each of these product stamped, a person has to go and give it to them to get approval. So we got involved, we went to the department, we spoke to the DG, we told them simple solution, have a digital platform for this. Yes, we will do it. Now this was like 1 year ago, we went and spoke to them. We send them reminders. These are simple things they can do. And these floriculture exporters, they have invested a lot of money on what you call polyhouses, their shade halls or whatever they call it.
Greenhouses.
But they are suppressed. So if you give them all this support in terms of policy, making things digital, these are small industry I'm talking about, 15 million US dollars per year. Now they are saying they can increase it to 50, it can go to 100.
But if you look at even Pushpiki, if you look at the potential of Sri Lankan exports in terms of rubber, look at Kamsalosa for an example.
Yep.
When they came to the country, it was a sizable investment.
Absolutely.
And look at the products that are coming out of that factory. As Sri Lankans, we should be proud that these are homemade. Why can't we build industries like that anymore? Tell me, what are the success stories in the rubber industry? It's very, very minimal.
You look at the FDIs. We have not seen a manufacturing FDI recently. But if you look at the rubber industry, if there's an investor outside of the country, he has many choices. Sri Lanka versus other countries, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, like that. But if you compare these countries, what are the benefits? Sri Lanka, what are we having? We don't have raw material enough. Our energy is the highest in the region. Our water price is high. And when the government increased the water price by 100%, BOI increased 150%. And if you take the taxes, overnight it became 40 to 30%. Why export industries are given a low corporate tax? There is a purpose. If you look at India, Thailand, everywhere, the corporate taxes are low. The main, it's an incentive given a lower tax rate for the exporters because they are competing in other countries. And exporters need a reinvestment on the technology. There is an upgrade needed and also capacity enhancement. They need the money. But if the 30% of the earning goes as an income tax, I don't think any exporters can survive. Any exporters can do the reinvestment. Even forget about the new investment coming into the country. But what about the existing people investment? We have seen a lot of companies going and investing in other countries.
So we are getting a lot of questions from our viewers.
Sorry, can I just add to what Pushpik was telling and also to your question?
Yes.
Because some time back, I think few months back, we were able to meet with McKinsey. And we were looking at Sri Lanka's current export total versus potential. So they were looking at, they have done some studies and say, at the moment, without doing anything, Sri Lanka has the potential to reach the exports about 22 billion a year. 22 billion. We are doing, say, 12 billion, right? I think our increase was for the last 10 years, probably from 9 billion to 12 billion max. Yeah. But with the current, setup in Sri Lanka. So why is not happening? Like what you're explaining, inconsistent policies. Like, for example, some pundits say, no, other countries, they have same rate of corporate tax. No, like Bangladesh, they have identified what are the priority sectors. They have identified IT, maybe apparel, as their priority sectors. Yeah. So they pay 12% corporate tax.
Yes.
Even India, the corporate tax rate is 25.
Yeah.
Most of the other countries, they don't have 30% corporate tax rate. So at least for some period until we are able to attract FDIs, we need FDIs.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, services we are getting FDIs, but it's not only services, because manufacturing is important, because we need to make even the SME, a small scale
But
person, for export.
Even in terms of services sector, we saw Murtaza Jafarji, the Advocate Institute chairman, speaking at the central bank event recently, said that the way in which power purchasers agreement has been given to India is a big question. That shouldn't have been the case at any given point. As a result of that, look at where Sri Lanka stands. You have any thoughts on that with regard to power electricity prices in Sri Lanka?
You can go and read what Rohan Pettiagoda has written also. That's, I think, that gives a lot of answers.
Yeah, so
about the power, the rubber industry is one of the industry which consume heavily. But the recent hike is we can't afford at all. Now, recently I visited a Thailand factory, southern part of Thailand. They are getting a 10% discount on the electricity for that particular company, rubber. Therefore, we are competing in that kind of a environment.
So Felix, I have a question. You are practically involved in exports. You have a company as well, a very well celebrated $150 million garment industry. You are involved in
$600 million.
$600 million. So that's quite sizable. So our viewer is asking you, why can't exporters use various forex instruments to hedge forex risk? Also, can't they use back-to-back LCs?
Okay, in our company, I can't answer for the other companies. I don't know Sean, MS, Brandix, how they use. We don't have a necessity for that, because being a European company, and because they have their own financing arm. So there was no need for us to do that one, because our head office or headquarters, they have their own financing arm, who is acting like a bank. So it wasn't a necessity.
Yeah, for the benefit of the viewer who asked that question, I think most of the companies are reluctant to even hedge their US dollar in volatile markets. Is the fact that when sometimes having a bigger exposure, whenever they get the dollars, those are gone into packing credit or packing material. So as a result of that, there is no benefit at all, unless otherwise the dollar performs somewhat bad.
And the local cost, because there is quite significant local cost. It will always change with the exchange rate in the country. Therefore, we have to absorb that.
Actually, some years back, Shamir, we tried, with the local banks, but then I think end of the day, like what we were telling, like the benefits were much lesser.
So, Sean, very quickly, Shreya, do you think customs is reluctant to digitize out of fear that they will lose their jobs and commissions made on the other side?
Yes.
Right now, the customs say there's a shortage of 700 employees. But if we digitalize the key functions of the customs, which is technically repetitive work of checking import-export documentation, then you can absorb that the people who are doing it now into these operations. Digitalization purely is looked down upon because of the second statement you gave, saying that they will lose. They are not their jobs.
They're bribes.
Not commissions, they are bribes.
Bribes.
Even the same mentality has crept into the BOI. We have verification officers who have a standard amount that you have to pay them to get it done. When they know that you don't pay it, then they will send your lorry first because they want to collect from the next one. So this is gone deep into the marrow of the bones of everybody.
Even in our case, gentlemen, we have heard many stories from our members, especially the SMEs, who cry to us saying that they have to face issues like this, where they have to, pay money to get things done, delays are happening. But due to fear, they don't want to go public with this, with their names, because there will be revenge taken on them. So this is happening. So creating online platform, making things digital will reduce this a lot. So we need to, together we need to fight and make sure that a digital platform is set, especially a single window concept, which will ease all these problems.
John, isn't it like a vicious cycle? Because then it's not only customs or it's not only a BOI that we have this thing. It's a system, you know, I think everywhere process.
It's everywhere from Indian revenue as well.
Yeah, but Sean, I mean, isn't it that maybe the successive governments are, I mean, can't we say they are responsible also? Because I don't think most of these people, they are getting a decent wage.
I don't think so. I know decent customs officers, decent, honorable customs officers. When they left, their salary was like 45,000 rupees a month. So what are we saying? Here they are passing millions of both of Castex import and export. So unless they have a conscience and a moral compass within themselves to say, no, I come from better stock. Unfortunately, majority of them are not like that.
Yeah.
The tendency is to take and get lost.
No, I'm not justifying bribes.
But even Felix, the problem is never is not enough, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The Singapore example is fantastic. It was a political will. They reached out to the Singapore customs and said, hereafter, if you get caught, your private properties, everything are going to get confiscated. And they brought law and order and gave them a decent wage. Right? After 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 30 years in the customs, if he's a straight and honest man, the chances of him going up the ladder is zero. He'll finally end up as a superintendent of customs.
Sean, we ourselves have such a law. Now you find the police going and seizing assets of drug dealers and people like that, simply because those so-called suspected drug dealers can't explain how they bought such a huge house. So that is seized by the police. So we have those.
Customs, I can tell you, the customs have, if they detect a fraud, they have a reward system. And it's rightfully, I think, we should not touch them. But we should give them a decent wage, because then you encourage them to go and touch fraud. But majority of them want the cash today, because otherwise they have to wait till the case is over, the fines are placed and the fines are paid. So it's better to get 200,000, 250,000 now, rather than wait for another 5 years to get the rewards scheme. That's my opinion only, but I have spoken to a lot of decent customs officers, and I think that I can stand by my convictions.
One more question. Shiham, now the semblance of stability that we have now, as opposed to 2 years ago with the economy, has been built around more borrowings by the government and higher taxation of the people and of companies. But to come out of this economic debacle that we are stuck in, we do require GDP growth, economic growth. And the export industries have to play a huge role in this. So, according to what all of you gentlemen are saying, it's not just the export industries which are in trouble, but the country is in trouble if the export industries cannot properly contribute. Would that sum it up?
No, you're right. We can't look at the situation we are in. Okay, we are much better compared to 2 years ago, but this is not going to be a long-term solution for us. I mean, things will change very soon once we start paying our loans, paying our debts. We are going to have an election year this year. There are a lot of, we see, strong, steady, long-term policies for the exporters is very, very important, so that whatever changes happen around, they will be able to focus and do their work. They are resilient. The exporters they know how to do their business. They are very smart in that. They are only asking for long-term policies, not ad hoc policies, changes happening with the government. Like, for example, the national export strategy.
Labor laws.
Get that now the labor laws. Now, there was a program under the Ministry of Labour to amend the labor law. We all contributed to that. We all went and spoke to them, gave them what are the current needs, what are the changes needed. Of course, keeping in line with under the ILO conventions, but still we are not seeing that amendment taken place.
So every year we see from the chambers, they send us a list of proposals to be submitted for the national budget.
Yes.
I think almost all the exporters must be saying recommendations saying please reduce the taxation, digitize the customs,
Yes.
whatever it is, right? But it has never happened, no. It's
Most
just a
of
piece of paper.
Most of the proposals that we give,
Piece of paper.
yeah, or maybe one or two, it will
Tissue
come because
paper.
Few have, they have listened and
they have
yes.
taken
Yeah,
some
few,
of them
yeah.
into consideration, but
Such as
most of the
10%, 5%,
sometimes less than that also.
less than that.
So that Niresh was asking about the government revenue needed, therefore tax need to go up. But especially exporters, we should not decide based on the Sri Lankan money requirement to the government. We have to look at how is the competitiveness other countries are performing. Because we are not working in a local environment. Because of just need a government money, if the exporters are killing and increasing the tax rate is not going to solve the issue. It will be temporarily get money, but it's not the long-term sustainable decision.
But Niresh, let me be a bit bold here because it's the government revenue. Government revenue, government can't expect from few industries or few professionals. Because look at, when 2018 or somewhere, during the current president who was working at the Prime Minister that time, I think they had nearly about 500,000 tax files. Okay. It has come down to about 200,000 or whatever. After 2019, they changed.
19, have they changed the tax regime?
Yes. I think it was some time back, it was about 1.6 million, if I'm not mistaken. 1.6 million. So the problem is, we don't have proper policy to collect the revenue. From the person that we know, we are going and collecting, the maximum. Or even you do the carpet bombing, like VAT, increase the VAT. So who is going to get affected? The poor people. But how many traders, how many professionals are there and who have wealth unaccounted for?
Yeah, that's
So
a good question.
there was a proposal by the government to open tax files for everybody.
We have given, for example, why can't we do certain countries? They have made sure, say some European countries, you can't pay more than, for a purchase, you can't pay more than 1,000 euro. That's the maximum you can pay in cash. If you are going to buy something above 1,000 euro, it's a bank transfer, check or credit card. So I think then, how many luxury vehicles we have got here? Huh?
I think they should start this, Felix, with the president's sons. Former president's sons, if they start, they can probably...
Now I think now it's becoming a little political. Yeah, not a political discussion. But I want to tell you one thing. People might think I'm only hammering the customs. I am not hammering the customs only. The Ports Authority is corrupt to its core. To its core. I'm not talking about the chairman and all this stuff. The people who do the work of the work. It is money, money, money. The airport, it is the same. It is the same in the airport as well. Our exporters suffer when we send cargo to the airport. The Air Force has a directive from the Defense Ministry or some high up that they have to open every lorry that comes to the into the premises of the airport. Our ornamental fish, beetle leaves, apparel, tea is opened up
And unloaded, I think.
and unloaded. And keep in mind, you have to keep a corridor in the lorry for the Air Force officer to walk from the beginning to the end and end to the beginning to identify which carton he wants to open and check. Now this merchandise is packed to international standards. The moment you open up an export carton which has been verified by customs or BOI, you have jeopardized the total shipment. And we have had instances where brands have complained, okay, my shipments are, my quantity is missing. They don't have time to, they just deduct from their, the fund that they have to send to us, and we are losing.
The particular fumigated cargo, which is...
Fumigated cargo, especially air freight, you don't have that. But our concern is, we have been trying with successive governments to see how we can eradicate this initial inspection from the Air Force.
So
Nobody's hearing us.
So Sean, unfortunately with you, like it or not, we have to ask you political questions. Who or which government do you think could eradicate this melody of bribe taking?
I
You are
think
very vocal
it won't
today,
be,
no,
it won't be, it won't be who or which government. The government of Sri Lanka has to have the backbone. Whichever political party comes into place, first they of course have to stop. They are bribing expertise. But
So President's sons are not involved in that.
presidents, I don't think our president has a son right now.
Not this president.
Yeah.
Former presidents.
Oh, well, I mean, innocent until proven guilty, right? So, but I mean, when you look at the general consensus in the country, everybody hates these 221 people.
25.
25, 221 or 25. We hate them, no, we detest them. No. They are hated. It's just that a small, faithful, blind following who lives on the scraps that fall from their tables, they are only going behind there.
I think the processes has to be transparent. It has to be digitalized. You have to change the system. It doesn't matter who comes into power.
System change.
System
Yeah.
change.
There we
So,
go.
let's speak to all four of you one more time for your closing remarks. As what's the way forward? So I want to start off with Pushpika. Pushpika, what is the way forward? We are saying this has happened, we are saying that has happened, but there has to be a message for the government. Today we have so much of messages flowing in. I presume those in government office, if they're not sleeping at 10 o'clock like former presidents, they must be watching the show tonight. What's the message you have for
They
them?
can watch it tomorrow.
No, what I
on
want,
YouTube.
Shamir, what I want to say, these exports should not think like a local business. We have to competitive in the world market. Therefore, our policies cannot be changed government to government, and it should not be politicized decisions. We have to be very clear as a country where we heading on the exports. Now, if you take rubber as example, where my industry, we can't change the thing overnight. If we want to develop the business, if we plant a tree today, it will take 5 years to get the crop. Therefore, it should be a national level policy irrespective of the government coming in. But that is not there. Therefore, we can't think about a long term, because all these investments are billions of money. People come and invest, not for just a 5 year for one government. Therefore, it has to be sustainable. It has to be as a country, we should go in one direction. But that vision is not there. Therefore, that's why we are not having the manufacturing and FDI. Because nobody come and invest. If overnight increase the taxes, the next government come, nobody know what they are going to do. Therefore, but you have to learn from India. You know, they are way ahead. At least we have to learn from the developed countries, because leave aside the politics. I'm always telling, eat the fruits in the tree, not the root. But now what's happening? We are not waiting until the fruit comes. We are just trying to eat in the roots. The tree will die very soon. Therefore, we as a country, we have to look at the long-term sustainability, not just one political part or the other political part. Even you are asking which political mandate give the solution for this. We don't want to listen to that, because we are not a political connected to the political party. We want to know as a Sri Lankan national policy, how the exports going to develop for another 10, 15 years ahead, because it's not a very tiny window to look at 5 years. Because nobody, you ask any investor in the Western countries or Japan, Korea, anywhere, nobody come for a shorter period. They come for a very longer period of investment, because they can't pull out investment if they commit here. Nobody can pull out millions of money. Therefore, my message is look at a national export policy, not a very short term. If you don't do that, our export industries are going to kill very soon.
Forget about eating the root, Pushpika. They are eating the exporters very well.
That's what I'm saying. Somebody take the tree home also, not eating.
I believe,
Right. Sean.
yeah, I believe the Sri Lankan have world-class product manufacturing entities. We have world-class products that we can export to the world. Brands and products, etc., merchandise. We don't have to worry about, government doesn't have to worry about that. We will look after those. Our entrepreneurs, our business owners will look after that. Ethical, I think we are one of the most ethical manufacturers in Southeast Asia when it comes to a lot of things. All we are asking is, give us the digital platform where we don't see you face to face. That's all. The infrastructure is ready. That means the laws are ready. The Judicial Act is ready. Ensure that anyone who comes into power, give customs a deadline to digitalize. I can tell you, donor agencies come and meet us when they come here. They meet the customs first or they meet somebody else. And when they come here, we have to contradict what they have said. And it's a shame for us. Because they ask, oh, this is hunky-dory, this is that, that is that. I said, no, that's not the case. So we want to be proud of our country. We are proud Sri Lankans. We never ran away. Like a lot of people who left the country and ran away to looking for green pastures around the world. We are still in this country. Our manufacturing entities are still in this country. Give us the freedom to operate digitally, snipe the wrongdoer, but don't carpet bomb the genuine exporter and the importer of this country. That's all as the Sri Lanka Shippers Council we can say. And I'm not fearful to say this because I have no company to run. I only run association right now. And no one can victimize me because there was this political statement those days, Rakina Parapurak na or Trupalinanda Kumarikawak na. I have nothing like that. So thank you very much.
අපිට නම් කුමාරිකාවකුත් නෑ.
I think my message would be that exporters are resilient. They will continue to fight. They still have hope. They are not lost everything. We as a chamber, we will continue to support our exporters. We will talk about the issues they are facing. As you know, today we called a spade, no sugarcoating. And I hope that you will keep inviting us like this to forums where this message will reach the big audience. And let us work together and be positive. I mean, we can't just stop things, you know. This is our country. We love our country. We know we need to increase our exports. So I think together we can build this up.
Absolutely.
So let's hope for the best. That's my message.
Thanks, Shyam. Felix.
Yeah, see, very important, you know, the consistency of the policies. Because what we have seen is not only when they change the government, not only that, but same government when they are changing the minister, also the policies get changed. That shouldn't happen. The policy consistency is very important because we know that, like I told you earlier, that we are able to reach 22 billion without much work. Then something what we need to do is, as I told you, that we are not a level playing field. So different countries has different perks, facilities. So we also need to make sure that we get into a lot of free trade agreements with whatever the countries that we think we have a lot of potential. Then again, as I told you earlier, labor reforms are important to get the FDIs. With the FDIs come, especially with the TEVA what we have, I don't think that they are able to exit very easily. They'll have to invest maybe more than what they have invested to exit from the country. That's why I think earlier also that you were giving one suggestion, maybe have some social security, so insurance, some scheme. If you lose your job, maybe for 6 months or 12 months, you will get maybe some amount from the government, but that can be maybe at 1% additional charge from the employee. They'll be very happy. But you know, with TEVA, you are making people unproductive, and maybe you are giving the money you are discouraging people to work. This thing. And then FTAs and also utility pricing. You need to make sure that you know that you are consistent in bringing the utility prices. And then another thing we forgot to discuss is now they are planning, based on the advices from the IMF, to abolish the suspended SVAT. That's a big problem, you know, that will lead to a lot of companies have to invest more in their cash flows. And, you know, we have we have done a survey within ourselves. 23 companies responded, apparel companies. They are to collect about 1.4 billion rupees as
at the moment.
Backlogs.
Yeah. And you think they will give in 30 days? No, some are due more than 5 years. So I don't think that, you know, we have to be very careful. You know, you can't kill, you know, you can suddenly kill the export industries because again, there were some people that who are abusing that one. Okay, because the government has extended this to some other industries also, like the construction and etc. etc. But you know, this was supposed to be only for the export industry. Yeah. So I think also like we have some bureaucrats who are unable to convince maybe the IMF. It's not only that we listening. Because IMF, their purpose is only to make sure that it's a government revenue, increase government revenue. But this process, SVAT, it's not going to increase the government revenue.
And even the present system working very well. There's no issue.
And when they collect the money, they spend it on unsolicited tenders.
Exactly.
Said.
Yeah, anyway, so I think we also haven't given up hope, so that's why we are always keep on engaging, maybe trying to convince, maybe you were saying slowly, but I think that's the win. In Japanese, you call kaizen, at least slow improvements is better than no improvement.
Something is happening.
Something is happening.
Thank you very much, Felix Fernando, Deputy Chairman, Joint Apparel Association Forum, Shiham Marika, Secretary General, CEO of National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka, Sean Van Dort, Chairman, Sri Lanka Shippers Council, Pushpika Janadera, Chairman, Lanka Association of Manufacturers and Exporters of Rubber Products. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
This
for having
evening
us.
on the show. Thank you very much, Niresh, our Consultant Director at Newsfirst, as well as Shihar Raniz, Executive Director for the Center for Investigative Reporting. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. No nation has ever taxed itself into prosperity until you realize how easy it is for your mind to be manipulated. You remain the puppet of someone else's game. Are we talking about someone? Are we part of someone's game? For you to realize. Take care and good night.
Good night.
Good night.